Thank you, Mruga. This evening, we intend to reflect on a unique topic. Generally, we don't want to reflect on such so-called morbid topics. And the topic of today's reflection is death, dying, and what is beyond death. Swami talk about life, immortality, and the eternality of the soul. But today I thought, let us spend some time on reflecting on death. Death seems to be more lasting than life. Life appears to be a flash on the frying pan of time-space continuum, like a bubble in the ocean, comes and goes. But death seems to be lasting. The person your loved ones who have left you, will never come back. However you may cry for it, however you may pray, whatever you may do, that person is not going to come back. He leaves an eternal gap or a space or a vacuum in your life. It seems that we have to somehow or other reconcile with the fact that we all are going to die. Death seems to be our close friend. The moment you were born, death also has like your shadow accompanies you. And you have to settle terms with death. And you cannot run away from death. As somebody said, a king got a vision that Lord Yama was visiting him, going to visit him. The king. The king didn't want to die. When Lord Yama fixes an appointment, you know what is the purpose, like an income tax officer. You know the purpose. So the king decided to run away from death. So he consulted his minister. Minister advised him, take a horse and then run away from the palace as far as you can. In the middle of the night when he had the dream, the king woke up and then he got the horse, climbed on the horse and ran away. The horse galloped as fast as it could, and the appointment time the following day was 11 o'clock. And the king, by 11 o'clock, he found himself far away from the palace, and he thought he gave a slip to Yama. And then he was so exhausted, tired, he dismounted the horse, and on a wayside tree, the shadow of the tree, he was lying on his back. And what does he see? He saw Lord Yama sitting on one of the branches of the tree. And the Yama said, thank you, I was a little late and you decided to come to me. The moral of the story is that we cannot avoid death. Death is our constant companion. Usually it is not my wont to talk on death, because we talk about life and living robustly in the world, interacting with the challenges of the world and invoking a spiritual potential and bringing light and happiness and peace into this world. So that is what generally we talk about. But this year, 4 of my close friends passed away. 2 of them were old, 84 years old, and 3 of them were young, in their 50s, in their 40s. And for the first time, I felt a deep sadness. I felt that a great loss in the death of these 5 people. And I shared my grief with my friends, and they were saying, Swamiji, you also have grief? You also feel the pain of death for the near and dear ones? I said, I'm not a machine. I'm a human being. I have a heart. And I definitely feel. Though I may be able to contain the grief, I'm able to keep the grief in a corner of my heart. But still, when I am alone, lonely moments, I feel the pain, the hurt, that somebody has been whom I loved so much, was a close friend of me, who worked with me, worked for humanity, he simply left. So this made me think that this year's talk should be dedicated to death. So this will be a reflective enterprise. I am only reflecting on death, the experience of death. I am not going to offer you any solution, because ultimately, as the Veda says, there is no solution to human problems. There are problems. You may face the problem. And as you face the problem, you may be able to respond to the problem in a very creative way. But one solution creates another problem. A solution is only pushing the problem a little forward. A solution is never going to be a lasting solution. This I have understood from my own experience. You can take the garbage from your house, your courtyard, collect it and put it on the road or in the neighbor's courtyard, but still there is garbage. Or you can collect all the garbage and take it to Bangladesh, or maybe in a ship and float in the sea, or maybe you can burn it, but still the carbon particles are in the space. So we discover from deep reflection about the mystery of life that there is no solution to human problem. There can be temporary solution. There can be a solution for a section of the people. There can be a solution for a few years, but still thereafter problems again remain. So we have to learn with the fact that there are problems. Life means a series of problems, and that cannot be avoided. And one of the challenges of life is death. And most of us are past 65. I see some young people also in this time. But they also will become old. And as Bhagavad Gita said, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshana. The born shall die. You cannot avoid it. The young will become old. You cannot avoid it. And the healthy can become unhealthy. You cannot avoid it. And if there is pleasure, there is pain. Life unfolds in terms of these pairs of opposites. So how do we face the inevitability of death? That is what we are going to discuss today. And again, another incident which prompted me to dedicate this session on death and life is my guru. I have two gurus. One is called the Diksha Guru. One initiated me into sannyas. That was in 1985. And the Shiksha Guru who taught me Vedanta, which is my calling and which I have been teaching for the last 34 years. My Shiksha Guru, Swami Dayananda, passed away last year. And he passed away in unique circumstances. He was on dialysis for almost 10 years. And While he is in the dialysis process, he will teach us. He teaches while the dialysis is going on. Where his blood is being taken out and purified and put back, he is giving a talk on the complicated subject or the complex subject of Vedanta. And he will laugh, he can jokes, and he is mirthful while this process is going on. But finally, after the age of 84, having seen the 1,000 full moons, Swamiji decided it is time for me to quit. It was a conscious decision. And we all were horrified to hear that. That here is a person who was our teacher and who is a very efficient teacher, finally at the ripe age of 84, decides to voluntarily leave this body. It was a final act of freedom to me, that you decide when you should leave this world. And that bold decision. Others were all upset and agitated and unhappy, but he stood by his decision. Even Prime Minister Modi, when that requested him, please, you have to live. You have to spread the knowledge of Indian tradition, wisdom to the whole world. The whole world is looking for it, waiting for it, and you should do that. And you are one of the best teachers in the world. But still Swamiji said, my time is over. Let the next generation take over. I have trained best teachers, and it is for them to carry the torch of light and wisdom. And so that ability to say enough is enough. Let me quit. Let me live this world. That clarity, that courage, that freedom to choose your death on your terms, not on anybody's terms, is a final act of freedom, as I could see. This all happened, that this knowledge came to me as an afterthought. When this Swamiji was going through these decisions and gave up or refused dialysis, we were all in pain. But then he was the happiest person that I could see. Of course, I was not there, but I could see some of the videos on YouTube of Swamiji's last days. The last days, the last moment, he chanted the part of the Vishnu Sahasranama, Shantagara, Bhujagashayanam, Padmanabham Sudesham, Vishwadharam, Yaganasadisham, Meghavarnam, Shubhangam, Lakshmikandam, Kamalanayanam, Yogi Vidhyanagamyam, Vande Vishnum Bhava Bhayaharam, Sarvalokaekanadam. Saying that, he just transited from this world. The same thing when you read Mahabharata, you find Bhishma being hit by the arrows of Arjuna. Life is ebbing away, and he decided he wanted to watch the denouement of the war, the final stages of the war. Therefore, he waited lying on the bed of arrows. He wanted to choose the time and the day of his death. And during this time, Bhishma was chanting Vishnu Sahasranama. And since then, we all have been chanting Vishnu Sahasranama. So from all this experience, we find there are people who accept death willingly, happily, and if you don't accept death willingly and happily, you will be forced to leave this world. You may be kicking and fighting, but ultimately, we have to leave the world. Why don't you live happily, rather than crying and miserably? And this tradition of voluntarily choosing the time and the day of our death has been there in the Indian culture and Indian civilization. Like there was one Raghavendra Swami, I don't know whether you heard about him, Swami Raghavendra, in the 17th century, if I remember it correctly. See, he having worked for the world at the head of the mud, teaching spirituality and Indian scriptures, one day at the age of 84. 84 seems to be the cut-off day. Because by the time you must have seen 1,000 full moons, When you see 1,000 full moons, you become so wise that you are ready to slug off out of this body. Like a ripe fruit falling from the tree, you are happily, willingly ready to fall from the tree. And that is a very wonderful experience, very great experience. When you choose your death and walk out, it will become a very joyous experience. So Raghavendra Swami decided, my time is up. It is time for me to leave. Anyway, my disciple is waiting to get onto the gadi anyway. So therefore, let me leave the world. He asked his disciple. He sat in Padmasan, focused his attention between the eyebrows. He resolved his thought into his heart by refusing to think. And then held his breath. And he did not breathe out. Satreva pranaha samavaliyande, and his prana resolved into his heart. And there was no breathing out. This is a beautiful way of dying. Generally we die by breathing out, isn't it? We say he breathed his last. But Raghavendra Swami, he breathed in, and then he did not breathe out. So the pranas resolved into his system, into his heart. That is how Raghavendra Swami died, or left his mortal body. And he sat like this, and then he sat in a cave, it seems. He asked the disciple to close the mouth of the cave. And then this is called Jiva Samadhi. Jiva Samadhi. Living, he attained death. So it's called a living death. So Mahatmas are generally described as living enlightened. Living enlightened. But here, living dead. He is dead, at the same time he was alive. Raghavendra Swami. There is another Swami called Yogeshwara Swami in the 13th century, Maharashtra. He completed his Bhagavad Gita commentary. After completing the Bhagavad Gita commentary, he decided, my time is up. And then, same way, he goes into a cave and meditates, and his disciples closed the mouth of the cave, and he entered into Samadhi. People believe he is still there in an energy form. Energy form, not the physical form. The physical body was so energized. He is still living there in energy form, blessing mankind. So we have this tradition. This tradition is called Prayopavesha, choosing your death. These days a lot of discussion is going on. Are we allowed to choose the time of our death? They use the word euthanasia. So you choose when you have to die, because death is certain. So you can, the technical word used for this particular process is euthanasia in English, or prayobhavesha in Sanskritam, or sallekhanam, like the Jain community, they call it sallekhanam. You are choosing, you are writing your own script. You are writing your own script and you are acting out on that script. So it seems that a mature civilization, a developed culture, will have a process and procedure and a way of dying. A socially accepted and way of dying. We should not be startled and shocked by the prospects of death. We are ready. So a person's culture or spiritual development is known by how he faces death. Ultimately, how he manages to leave this world. There is one Upanishadic mantra which says, which is whispered to the dying person. And the mantra is, Vair anilam amrudam adedam basmandam shariram. O kradosmara kradagam smara kradosmara kradagam smara. Your breath will join the samashti breath. Your body will become ashes. What will remain in you is the mind. Therefore, a mind remember remember your source, your source. And hence some mantras are given like Shivoham, Shivoham. My source is Shiva. I have come from there and I have to go back there. So these kind of reflections on death is become very, very important for us now. People are talking about end life care, palliative care, and this has become a big science now. How to manage your last days, how to think about the prospects of death without any mental disturbance. That has become a big challenge these days, because I find the old people, the number of old people are increasing. It was 15%, now it is 25%, in another 25 years it will be 50%. 50% of the population are going to become old. So how are we going to face this situation? And in our tradition, the Hindu tradition, they say up to 55, you live a grahastha life. After 55, you move into the forest to prepare for death. So up to 55, you are trained, of course, 25 years you are trained, you are given all the knowledge. Then another 24 years you lead the life of a grahastha. Thereafter, we move into the forest. But the problem is, where are the forests these days? There are no more forests. And hence, living in the forest means watching your thoughts. Be ready to die. Death can come any moment. You don't have to be old to die. One of my close friends died a day before yesterday. He was not old, he was only 50 years. 50 years old once upon a time. No more. And he had a minor accident. He went into the surgery for that accident, and during the surgery he died. There's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason. So we don't have to be old to die. So my point was, we have to reflect on the phenomena of death. Death seems to be more lasting than living. In fact, we are dying every moment of our life. Every moment, things are changing. And every moment your body is changing, your thoughts are changing, your ego is changing, your environment is changing. So one way of understanding death is we are dying every moment. When you are coming to this room, you are born into the room. When you leave this room, you are dead to the room. So, of course, these days we are talking about the art of living, isn't it? We also have to talk about the art of dying. It is only when we think of the art of dying, we can think of the art of living. Because if you are prepared to die, you can lead a better life, a very active life. Recently, one of my friends told me, more than the act of living, it is the heart of living. What is the heart of living? What is the core of living? And the heart of living, according to the Indian tradition, is the Atman. And we have to meditate on the Atman to understand what life is all about. So what is the nature of the Atman? The Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra, they all talk about what is the nature of the Atman. Now even the other traditions talk about the nature of the Atman. As the nature of the Atman is Satchidanandam, you all know that. The nature of the Atman is Satchidanandam, limitless happiness, limitless bliss. That's the nature of the Atman. So when we live in this world, interacting with the world, we must find a time to reflect on the nature of the Atman and realize our real nature is limitless bliss. And that limitless bliss is timeless. It doesn't undergo change in time. It is beyond all limitations that the time brings into our life. So it is beyond time, beyond space, and beyond all kind of mutations and change. And when we reflect on the nature of the Atman, then alone we'll have the courage to face the challenges of life. So, the Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita says, Najayade mriyade va kadachi, nayam bhutva bhavita vanagoya, ajo nitya shachadoyam purana, na hanyade hanyamani. The body may die, the mind may change, but there is a changeless undying core in you. Nothing happens to that core. Nothing, no change happens to that core. It is a source of infinite energy and infinite happiness and infinite peace. Reflect on that, the Bhagavad Gita says in the second chapter. In fact, all religions talk about the mortality or the self. So when we think about that, the question is to be asked, who is dying? Who is sleeping? Because sleep also is a kind of death experience, isn't it? When you go to deep sleep, you don't remember anything. You don't see anybody. You are not aware of your happiness or pleasure and pains. You are not aware of your children and family. It seems that you are going to a deep state of relaxation and repose, where nothing agitates you. So that deep sleeps give you an experience of death. It's a kind of near-death experience. Ramana Maharshi talks about the near-death experience. When he saw his father dead one day, very active man, very powerful and successful lawyer. One day he came home from the school and Maharshi saw his father is dying, dead. So he couldn't believe. When I left home, he was very active. Now he is inactive, passive, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't respond to anything. So Ramana Maharshi wanted to have the same experience, it seems. So he lay down into deep state of repose. And it is said Maharshi had a near-death experience. And when he came out of that near-death experience, Maharshi was a totally changed person. When we took sannyas, sannyas also is a death. My guru told me, you are dead. I was shocked. I was a young man at that time. How can I die? My guru said, you are dead. Look at the world. The world is constantly changing. Look at your own body. Body is constantly changing. Look at your thoughts. Thoughts are constantly changing. Look at your memories. Memories also undergo change. Then what is there in you? That is your true nature. So he said, you are dead. Thereafter I am living a life of a zombie. His body is moving around, but inside it is all hollow, you can say. There is no more reaction. There is only responses to the world from my own inner core. So when you become a sannyasi, you are dead. Dead to the world. And that gives you a lot of freedom. So death is not that just a death of the physical body. Death can mean many things. Death can mean you are changing an old ideology and taking to a new ideology. Changing a thought and taking to a new thought. Or leaving a house and going to another space. All these are death and being born. Again the dead shall be born. Death is not a full stop. Death is only a comma according to the wisdom traditions. All over the world. Death is only a comma. When you die, you may leave the physical body. Then what happens? Who is dying? Who is going to sleep? When you go to sleep, you don't know anything. But when you wake up, the same person wakes up, isn't it? Not that you went to sleep, Mr. Raman Nair went to sleep, and Krishna Nair woke up out of sleep. That doesn't happen. You went to sleep, you come back. You have both the pratyabhijna, self-knowledge, and you also have smriti, the memory about the things. So there is some kind of a continuation and continuity. So we have to ask this question, who is dying? And for whom is death? Our tradition says, Death is only the disintegration of the body. But the body is the gross aspect of us. Behind the body is the mind. Behind the mind is the Atma. Mind you can know. You know you have a mind. If you don't mind, you know you have a mind. You know you have a body. But beyond that, we have no access. That is the source of fear. Beyond that, we have no experience. That is the cause of our fear of death. If you change an old cloth, old torn clothes, and get into a new pair of suit, you don't sit and cry. Actually, you are happy. Similarly, as Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, navani grinnadi yato parani, tadha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani, sayyadi navani. Just as you cast off the old clothes and take on to new clothes, similarly you give up the old body and take on new body. So death is a possibility. Death is an opportunity according to this meditation. Death is not a calamity. Death is not the end. Death is only a comma in the long sentence of your life. And you will continue to renew yourself. We have to die. That's why death is considered as a possibility. So from a calamity, the death is the end of my journey. Death is only a temporary repose. And you can rest well and again get on the journey of life. And this is something against the modern scientific notion. The scientific people say when the brain is dead, you are finished. There's nothing more than that. It's a very gross, materialistic, mechanistic view of life. And that idea is, we rebel against that idea. All of you rebel against that idea. That with the death of the brain, you are finished. Brain is only an instrument through which you express to the world, interact with the world. So the very idea that with the death of the brain, disintegration of the body, I am over, is not appealing to us. It doesn't taste in our mouth. I don't have to use any logic for that. It doesn't taste, it doesn't appeal. My whole spirit rebels against that idea. I would call it spirituality. A spirituality is a rebellious thought against the idea of death. That after death, the physical, disintegrated physical body, I am not there. I cannot accept that thought. There is something more in me. I may not remember it. I may not be able to recall this. But recalling is not a test of your continuous identity. You need not recall all the time, all the experiences you had. For example, ask you, what did you eat for breakfast last year on this particular day? You don't remember that. That does not mean you did not eat breakfast. That does not mean you are not there. So recalling need not be the necessary test of your continuity of life. So we have to rebel against that idea that with the death of the brain or the body, we are over. We continue to live. And all the wisdom traditions of the world testifies that statement. That it says, when the body disintegrates, the mind continues. So yatha karma yatha shrudam, according to the British. According to your karma and according to your intent and intentions, you move to another world. I was reading the Book of the Dead by the Egyptians. The Egyptians say when you die, your heart will be weighed in a certain subtle realm. The heart will be weighed against an icon or a deity who is the representation of justice and fairness. The deity symbolizes justice and fairness. When you die in a subtle realm, your heart will be weighed against this deity. If you weigh more than the deity, you will go up as a subtle person. If you weigh less than the deity, you will go down in another world. If the balance is perfectly balanced, then you will remain where you are. So there, even 5,000 years ago, people thought about a life after death. Life was not the end. When we became self-conscious, the idea of immortality arose in our mind. And we cannot think that we are mortals. Our whole spirit rebels against it. So the Egyptians, the Christians, there is a whole book written by a Christian priest in the 15th century which talks about how to prepare for death. How to prepare. We all are running away from death, isn't it? As we have seen in the first story. How to prepare for death. And when you prepare for death, you live longer. That's the beauty of that. You live longer. You live healthier. You live at peace. When you are not prepared for death, because the stress and strain, your life becomes shortened. So it gives you a different result. As somebody said, if you die, die only once, don't die several times. So when we are preparing for death, that is the only way to increase your longevity. Not eating a lot of vitamins. You see people eating 250 vitamins a day thinking they will live longer. You may live another 15 years, but that is a blip in the cosmic time scale. That is nothing. So if you want to live longer, longevity means living in timelessness. When you are happy and joyous, you are in a timeless soul. So living in that timeless state of consciousness is what is immortality. So immortality is our passion. We cannot give up that thought. I want to be immortal. So the Western tradition says death means, ordinary death is disintegration of the body. Then what remains is the mind. The mind takes several births in search of new bodies and new experiences, depending upon his past karmas. The mind takes several births. And finally, you are tired of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jadare shayanam. Iha samsare bhagadustare kribaya pare pahimurare. The Western tradition gives you a solution for that. If you are tired of taking newer and newer birth, you can also finally abide in the self. So different religious traditions have got different idea about the self. So reflection upon death and immortality is nothing but the reflection on the self. Who is dying? That is the question you have to ask. Who is dying? Am I dying? Or the body is dying? Or the mind is dying? Or my memories are dying? Who is dying? Can you think of death? I am asking you a question. Can you think of death? What is death? Do you have any idea? What is death? Do you have any experience of death? Do you have any idea of death? Can you recall the experience of death? Because that area seems to be very dark to us, an unknown area. And when we think about death, reflect on death, not just discursive thinking, not just analytical thinking, but reflective thinking, we slip into a dimension of consciousness where you don't feel death at all. No death happens to you. And hence, the Bhagavad Gita and our scriptures say, you are basically immortal. You don't die. Death is only happening to certain aspects of your personality, not the essential nature of your personality. With that idea, when you face death, death is no more a source of fear. According to the Indian wisdom tradition, the self is immortal, and one has to realize that. According to the Buddhistic tradition, the self is a constantly changing phenomenon. It constantly changes. There is no fixed identity for the self. Self is constantly dying and constantly taking birth. It is a continuous moment. They call it Kshanika Vijnana, constantly changing consciousness. whether it is a constantly changing consciousness or whether it's an immortal, changeless consciousness, the experience of immortality is the same. And that knowledge will liberate you. At this point, I remember a story from Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there is a beautiful story about death and dying. That the young man died of a snake bite. And he had a mother who was very old, living in the outskirts of the city. And a hunter saw the snake biting, and the young man died. The hunter took the young man on his shoulders and caught the snake and came to the old lady and told her mother, this snake bit and the young boy died. It's such a cruel happening. This snake is to be punished. The mother said, all right, how will you punish the snake? I can crush the snake, I can cut the snake into pieces, I can put the snake into fire. Then the mother asked, by killing the snake, torturing the snake, will my son come back to life? He said, no. That doesn't happen. So what is the point in punishing the snake? And as they were arguing like this, the snake started speaking. Those days animals also speak. They also speak. But it needs a special understanding, sensitivity to understand the language of the animal. A dog lover understands the language of the dog. A horse lover understands the language of the horse. One who watches birds understands the language of birds. So you need a special sensitivity. So the snake started speaking. Ma, it's not me. It's not me who killed the boy. I was commanded to bite the boy and kill him. I am only an instrument. I am not the agent. Then the old lady and the hunter asked him, then who? Who forced you to bite the snake? Who was that agent? He says, it was Lord Death. So the mother and the son turned against Lord Death, cried and then prayed, and then Lord Death appeared. He said, actually it is not me. I am also not an agent. I am only an instrument which commanded the snake to bite the boy. Don't blame me. Will you blame a knife because the knife hit you? You will blame the person who used the knife to hit you, isn't it? So therefore, knife is only an instrument, not the agent. So similarly, Lord Death was not the agent. Then they asked him, who was the agent? Oh, it was time. The boy's time has come. That is why he died. Kala, Mahakala. Then the mother and the son, the hunter turned against the Lord Time. And the time appeared. The time said, actually, it is not me. Then who? What was the cause? Who was the agent? It is his karma, he says. He did such karma so that at this second such time he has to die by a snake bite. It is his karma. Then the karma was called. Why did you kill him? So the karma said, it is not me. This boy wanted to renew himself by dying. So when you die, you get an opportunity to renew yourself. Unless you die to the old, you cannot get into the new. So to experience life anew on a continuous basis, you have to experience death. So death is only an opportunity for you to experience yourself, to invoke yourself, to understand yourself, to express yourself in manifold ways. So death is not something to be scared of. Death is not something to be avoided. Death is an opportunity by which you are dying to the old and the old situations and getting into the new situations. Then the mother understood, this is my child choice. So death becomes a choice of this immortal individual. You are immortal. You don't die. But you want newer and newer experiences. You may not remember all this. The problem with the death is, after sleep you remember. I went to sleep and I come out of the sleep. So there is a certain continuity. In death, it's a clean slate. There are some stories, some young people could remember the past, but I think these are all put up stories. They are not real stories. Because they are all manipulated. There is nobody who can actually remember his past life. Because the past life is completely, past experience are completely erased from your memory. And then so that new experience can come. Like on tape. On tape when you record new song, all the songs are completely gone. Otherwise there will be a confusion, isn't it? I remember a couple went for a past life regression. Just to know what we were in the past life. So they went to a psychiatrist, psychologist, they put him on the couch and then took him to the past life, and suddenly they discovered in the past the husband was a cat and the wife was a mouse. Now the problem is when the wife looks at the husband, she sees a cat. And the husband looks at the wife, he sees a mouse. Confusion. So these cartoons in life are necessary condition for the drama to unfold. If you keep remembering all that has happened in the past, then you will be in utter confusion like a traffic jam, isn't it? So certain things you have to erase. You have to forget. So remembering all that, what happened in the past, is not a necessary condition for the continuity of your consciousness. The only thing you have to remember is that if something happens today, it must have a continuity from the past. Things cannot appear out of the blue. You know, the modern science talks the theory of conservation of matter. So things cannot happen out of the blue. So the very fact you exist today shows that you existed in the past. So the I consciousness is a continuous experience. It cannot change. So yogis say you can consciously die, consciously go to sleep, consciously go under anesthetic also, very consciously. These days they give you local anesthesia, isn't it? So that you can see what is going on in the screen, that your part of the body is cut and stitched and all that. So yogis say you can consciously go to sleep and consciously go to death, which requires practice. So Lord Krishna gives some practices in the Bhagavad Gita. Every day you sit cross-legged in the Padmasana and focus on your breath and the gap between breaths. I'll give you some technique to consciously go to sleep and consciously go to death, so that you have the experience of continuity at the back of your awareness. So life, death is no more something to be afraid of. Death is something to be invited. Death is something to be accepted. So sit every day. And those who passed 65, they should start doing it now. And most of you are past 65 and you are going to be 65. So sit every day. Don't do it now, I'm just giving you some instructions. Sit every day, cross-legged, sit straight, focus your attention between the eyebrows and watch your breath. Because we have seen breathing the last is death. Watch your breath and see the gap between thoughts. See the gap between breathing, inhaling and exhaling. If you can see the gap between inhaling and exhaling, you can also see the gap between thoughts. And these gaps, if you can increase the longevity, increase the gap, the distance of the gap, increase it, then slowly you come to a zone of deep silence. and pure awareness. And this has to be cultivated. Every day you have to practice. And if you practice that, 6 months before death, you will know. One of my Swamis who passed away 2-3 years ago, he knew that he was going to leave the body. He knew that 6 months before. And he started preparing this way. The first thing you do is reduce eating. Some people, since I have to live only for 6 months, they start eating more. Chicken, gulab jam, and all that. So that's not the... So when you come to know that my life has come to an end, I have to leave this world in 6 months' time, you reduce your food, reduce your eating, and you feel so good. Then, talking. You talk less. Talk less. Then, you think less. Because all these are connected phenomena. Eating, talking, thinking. You talk less, eat less, think less, and then you feel a certain coldness inside. You feel cold. So stage comes upashanta teja. That fuel, fire without a fuel. Imagine that. Fire without a fuel. Fire blazes up because there is fuel. When there is no more fuel, the fire is there, but you cannot see it. Doesn't blazes forth. So you become like fire without fuel. You become pure presence. People can feel it. So therefore such people are not burned, they are only buried. Such people are not burned. Their body is not cremated. Their body is only buried. So they become pure presence without any pure consciousness. So one can remain in that state of pure consciousness. And from there you have the choice to take birth. Or you don't have to take birth. In that state you can keep blessing mankind. Their vibrations will radiate all over. So that's the final state our rishis are envisaging, and we have to give some thought to this phenomena, how to die, which is very, very important. So, when you are ready to die, willing to die, keep a bag ready all the time. With this understanding, death becomes a very happy experience. And you don't have to die before the age of 84, please. 84 is the time allotted to all of us. Beyond that, quality of life decreases. It's only rare ones who can continue after 84 with quality of life. So after 84, quality of life declines. So therefore, you don't have to live after 84. After 84, you must prepare for the inevitable death. And the way to prepare is, as I told, reducing eating, reducing talking, reducing thinking, and becoming that fire without fuel. And your presence will be recognized, and you will become a source of blessing to humanity. That is what our tradition talks about that. Thank you very much. Hari Om. Anybody any further thoughts on this?
What's the relevance?
How important is the dreams in daily life? How important are the dreams in your daily life?
What the importance of dreams?
Yes.
Dreams can be understood in several ways. One dream is unfulfilled desires. Your desire is not fulfilled. You want to eat laddu and you are a diabetic. You are not allowed. Then you go to dream and you bury yourself. So it can be an unfulfilled desire. desire, be fulfilled in dream. Second dream also can be an insight into the future, how the future will unfold in your case. So don't just leave dream as frivolous. Some dreams are so powerful that it can give you an idea of what is going to happen in the future. Some dreams are only give you an insight into what happened deeply in the past, which you may not remember. So dreams have its own role in human life.
Thank you.
But you must know how to separate. Yes.
I wanted to know the relevance of my face and style of my death.
What is that?
You said I have a choice to choose my death, how to die, when to die. And I want to know what's the relevance and how I go about it.
The relevance is, at this point, death is forced on you. You have to die. Not that you are willing to die. Given a choice, you will rather not die. So, since death is inevitable, and death is an opportunity, that's how we understand it. Death is not a calamity, it's an opportunity. So, you can decide when you should die. So that you are free in making that choice. Otherwise, you feel unfree. And the relevance is depending upon what you think about your life in this world at this point. If you want to live a little more, if you want to live, how will Modi perform another 2 years? Live for 2 more years. So the ability or the freedom to choose your death is part of their fundamental freedoms. That is why sometimes I think suicide also is to be looked at in a different standpoint. I'm not supporting, please don't get me wrong. It has to be looked at from a different perspective. And this boy committed suicide in Hyderabad University, that Rohit. And it's not just because he was humiliated in the university. There are other deeper reasons. Just as somebody humiliated someone need not be the cause for suicide. There are several other reasons. Because the death wish is part of our life, part of our being. All of us might have thought of dying at one point or other in our life. So suicide needs a different way of understanding. If there is only one life, suicide is criminal. But there are many lives. Please don't quote me anywhere. I'm just, this assembly is a very learned assembly. I'm just trying to think around. Suicide is to be looked at different standpoint. And how we look at from the perspective of immortality of the soul. It is to be something to be reflected and debated.
And different countries look at suicide differently.
Different.
For the Japanese, it's a noble.
It's noble, a harakiri.
Absolutely.
Harakiri, they just stab.
And even Shakespeare has quoted, in that way every man holds the key, every slave holds the key to his freedom.
Freedom.
Julius Caesar. You
You
can take your life, you don't have to.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are different views. I also don't support
Thank you for
and,
supporting me.
one thing more of freedom, but then it creates problem.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. That's a good contribution. Yes.
Thank you.
Swamiji, I read somewhere that mind is not created by the nature, it is created by the man himself. Is it true?
When you say created by man, it has to be understood a little deeper. There is an interaction between nature, the environment, and the human being or the organism. The organism and environment interact to create mind. But that creation of mind must have some prior cause. So the man or the organism come into this world with a rudimentary mind. Where to say tambula rasa or the plain paper, we don't know. But there is something in the beginning with which you interact with the world, and the world start writing its script.
No,
So if
Swamiji, that what we call mind, that may be brain actually.
I understand. So there are various theories. Brain processes is creates the mind. It's the mind is an emergent phenomenon. That's one attitude. Another thing is mind is there, independently existing, which manifests through the brain. So we have the body, mind, the spirit, three things together. They are independent, but they are functioning together. So mind is an independent entity. Another, it's an independent stream. So when you die, only the body disintegrates, the mind continues. When the mind also disintegrates, the spirit remains.
So there is one thing. There is the proof that there is life after death.
No proof. No, so I can see there is no proof. It is only my inner spirit, says that I survive. There is no other proof. It is my need, my wish, and my spirit, my rebellious nature. And something in me says, you are immortal. So don't be afraid of death.
But what about reincarnation? We have proof. Some children are geniuses.
I don't give much validity to that proof.
No, like, at the age of 3, they are playing the piano, Mozart and all. So there is something.
That need not be the proof of rebirth.
What?
That only the proof of, it's a previous child. And we don't have to take that as a proof. Because we don't have enough evidence to.
I think lots of books and lots of proof has.
You are free to, not be.
Yeah, it's
I
one's own.
Yeah.
This.
Swamiji, I want to tell you one thing, that nowadays some people are trying a thing which is called regression in past life.
Yeah.
Now what they do is they make the person go into a trance and then they make him recall all the past events of his previous birth. I have seen this happening in some places, I have seen this on the television also. Do you think that this is a hoax or it can actually happen?
I think it's a hoax. I think it's a hoax. Because I don't find enough proof or evidence for that. But it's a good game. It's a good game to give you a perspective about things. Because from the non-understanding, you can collage things and give a perspective. As far as the perspective is concerned, it is useful. Yes.
Hello.
Like,
Swamiji, in these sunset years, what is my dharma towards my wife and what is her dharma towards me when looking forward for the...
Both of you are
ultimately only one will have to be here.
Both will have to take care of yourself, reduce your needs, try to be independent as much as possible from each other, and try to reduce your needs and be independent, don't feel lonely, enjoy nature, enjoy your own being alive, so that you can be free from the bondage of your spouse. And that is what you have to practice.
But Swamiji, many people say at this age, you should spend more time together. Will not that lead to more attachment?
It can. So together does not mean dependence. Together means you are challenging each other, try to help advise each other or engage in a conversation. I would call together means engage in a conversation. But be less dependent on each other. Yes.
If you can just kind of talk about the connection of food to the mind and the body.
Yes. So according to our tradition and my experience also, what you eat, that you become. If you eat the right food, you are healthy, your mind is at peace, and you have access to the spirit. So food plays a very, very important role.
So should you focus more on eating right or eating less?
Eating right. Good one. Eating less.
Because you talked about, as a person ages, you should start.
Yeah, for
eating
a
less.
person aging, for an aging person, eating less is right. Eating less is right.
And
Otherwise he put on weight and then become a burden for himself.
How does that?
And like Mahatma Gandhi, he had the soul force and he ate very little as he became old. So for an old person, eating less is eating right. How much less, that you have to decide.
Thank you.
And also sattvic food as this is, right?
Yeah, if you understand what sattvic food is. Anybody else? Yeah, Murla? Yes.
Swamiji, we talked about food and the art of dying. I mean, how are the two connected in the sense of how does it ultimately help?
Because you are attached to the body by food.
Okay.
So if you reduce your eating, your attachment to the body decreases. And anyway, the body is useless by the age of 84 or 70. You can't hear, you can't see, you cannot, all the limbs are failing, and so the body does not need as much food as you need. And you don't digest all that you eat or integrate. So eating less is a recipe for healthy old age living.
But about this of choosing your time, like one would like to, but how does one do it? I mean, at the age of 54.
I told you that sitting in that particular posture every day,
Yeah,
you will be able to do it.
watching your breath.
Yes.
Swamiji, one last question is, a person who's dying, doesn't want to die, and you have to take care of that person, how do you deal with that? That's very hard.
You cannot tell him, that person who doesn't want to die, you are going to die, or I will kill you. Don't say that. You have to sit with him, with her, or hold her hand and ask her questions. How did you live your life? What are your dreams? What are you planning? Be with them if you have the time. Otherwise, employ somebody to do that. You cannot be cruel to a dying person. It is his choice or her choice when to die or when not to die. If you are left with such a person, it's an opportunity for you to learn about things, about life, how people cling on to life, why they are doing that. It becomes an education for us to be with older people. Yes.
Just 1 minute. What about an extreme and crippling fear of illness? I have this extreme fear of illness. What if I fall ill? I'm not scared of death, but I'm scared of disease, like terrible
You
disease.
should not be scared of it.
Now, how do you deal with that fear?
Tell yourself, illness is part of being alive. A stone never falls ill, isn't it? It's a package. Illness is part of being alive. And when you become relaxed about that, you don't fall ill.
Yes. Yeah.
It is a tension which brings your kind of unnecessary illness. So make friends with illness. Think about it.
But why worry about something
Yeah,
before it
which
comes?
is not yet come.
When it comes, we
Yeah,
should
then you
think
can
about
think about it. And it will
Before
not
that,
come.
you're just wasting your
Yeah,
life.
don't cross the bridge before you reach it.
Exactly.
So don't worry about it. Focus your attention on wellness. That's another
Not
way.
think
That I am
of
healthy.
negatively.
My nature is okay. I'm fine. That kind of thoughts you have to maintain. Watch out nature. All those other things.
Okay, I thank Swamiji today for this most enlightening lecture, and I hope we'll go home a little bit more relaxed about dying. And also how to live. I am 55 today. I think I have 30 years to practice that, hopefully. So I think joyously we should follow all that Swamiji has told us and get into the art of dying. Thank you, Swamiji, and thank you all for being here for this great foundation.
Thank you.
Prashad.